Hello, everybody, and I hope you're all doing well. So, today is technically Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. And again, the messed up sleeping patterns, and well, when you're drinking coffee in this amount at a time, yeah, you're kind of gonna be up at night. So. Coffee good. Water good. Pop bad. Energy drink bad. But I drink them on occasion too. So that said, make sure you're always getting liquid into your body, especially during these hot times of the summer. So, enough of my 1 minute opening here. Why are you viewing this video, you ask? Well, because Terry made it, for one. Secondly, he uploaded it to his channel, so must be something of interest. So, getting back to what I've always said about this channel being basically a variety channel offering different aspects of things, talking about guitar stuff, recipes, coffee, water, computer components, social issues, social commentary on the current state of YouTube and YouTube's various communities, such as the guitar community, gaming community. And also, can't forget trading cards and commentary on all those things, which, again, by all intents and purposes, you're not supposed to do. But the reality is I'm trying to be moderately successful here. And also, at the same point in time, the reality is I'm really more pro-consumer focused. Not for the musician out there that's touring or gigging, not for the professional gamer that's out there in the esports leagues, not the business owners that build computers, psychologists, whatever else. But anyways, I'm here for us, the general home user / hobbyist, in all these sorts of affairs. With that said, as you noticed, I held up a basically what nowadays are our hard drives that are going into our newer computer systems. That is, unless you're stuck back in the Stone Ages, which pretty much means a computer system from about 4+ years ago. So, this is currently what's in my system. That was a carryover from, I believe, the previous board I had. And it was what's known as the standard as of the 2 previous years, which is the NVMe M.2 standard. And in this case, these were generation 3, which offered up to a maximum readability of basically, I think, like half a terabyte a second or a quarter of a terabyte a second, for those of you that understand geek talk. So, again, as I've said previously in other videos, if you have a very low income or don't have the means to spend money on hardware, what do you have to do to get to more advanced, better hardware to have as a computer system? Sell what you're currently using to pay for what you're moving up to or moving into in regards to a computer component. In this case, I found a good deal on this. I had the available cash to purchase it. And so this is basically going to be resold locally or on other classifieds to pay for the following items. So I'm going from a previous second tier last gen NVMe drive to the Samsung 980 Pro M.2, and if you can read that down there, this little thing has a maximum read performance of up to 7,000 megabytes per second, which is getting close to, we'll say, a terabyte level, I believe. Needless to say, it moves a lot of stuff on your computer fast. And again, another big premise with these units is you have to have a current generation motherboard, which, again, for folks that are unaware, Intel has only been on this standard and only certain motherboards for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and there is no room to upgrade. So if you got an Intel based system that's within the last 5 years, you probably can use this, and this will be fine for basically your putting your Windows / operating system onto. But if you buck the norm and back and support the competition, which currently, as of right now, again, like I said, AMD isn't the long behind second dog. They are now actually right up there. Pretty much, it's almost, for the most part, a 1A, 1B scenario. AMD, though, again, like I'll say, as much as I sound like an AMD fanboy or an AMD shill, you got various upgrade paths with the AMD builds of the last, or AMD motherboards of the last, let's see now, 3000 series, 4000 series, and 5000 series chipsets from them, whereas if you had bought an Intel, the only thing you can do is buy a new chip or maybe some RAM that would be compatible with that motherboard, and the new chip / CPU would only specifically be what would be locked into that generation of a motherboard, which, from what I constantly say, is not a pro-consumer thing. It would be like buying, to explain it to, like, in a guitar term, it would be like you buying the best guitar in the world from whatever brand name and then putting a shitty or crappy guitar tuner on it that was preventing the guitar from not being in tune all the time. And instead of you being able to change those tuners out, they actually glue them into place. So you can't do it. So here you are, you got this awesome guitar. It sounds great. It plays like crap because it can't stay in tune, and you can't upgrade the tuners on it to a more stable and better tuner because they're glued into position or something along those lines that prevents it from being done so. That's basically what Intel, for almost their whole existence, is basically done to us, the consumers that actually do go with computer components. That said, so not only is this drive, the Samsung 980 Pro, have double the performance of this drive here, but I'm also going up another ½ terabyte in size to an actual 1 terabyte drive. Does that change the size of the drive? No. That's basically how big your hard drives are nowadays, folks. If you get into a modern computer system, this is the hard drive you want to have in it, and especially the one that you want to have your operating system on is one of these drives right here. This big. The other awesome advantage of the NVMe standard is that you don't have a whole bunch of wires running into it. You just use it like a piece of RAM. You stick it in the slot. It gets its power off the slot. There's no messing around with it other than putting it into the BIOS. So, 11 minutes of talking. Sorry, but trying to explain things here. So, what I'm going to be doing today, hopefully, or I guess I should say tonight, is hopefully removing this drive out of the system, replacing it with this drive as the main boot drive, and I'm going to hopefully be showing you the performance differences from doing this upgrade. Oh, and another thing about this, you can pick these up for about $180 to $220 American. They're not super expensive. And the biggest thing of all that you're going to get with having a PCI Express 4x X 4x NVMe M.2 SSD drive is you're going to see performance gains in basically larger chunks of data. So gaming will be affected to a certain degree on load times and performance. Where you will see the biggest performances of all is moving data back and forth over your computer, aka video editing, which of course is all of us on YouTube that do actually post up content, do a lot of video editing. And so drive like this with faster RAM, like I do have in this system now, and more cores at also a higher speed level will allow you to complete tasks so much more quicker. So I know there's people out there that talk about editing 4K content. If you got the 4000 megahertz RAM like I got, this drive, and like the 8, 12, or 16 core AMD Ryzen 7 or Ryzen 9 5000 series CPUs in your computer, it's going to be like nothing to do. It'll just be zip. So again, hopefully with all this, I'm going to be showing that to you. So hopefully in this scenario, I'm going to show you a hard drive benchmark on both drives. I'm going to attempt to put both drives with the same configuration or in other words, changing the data over from the 970 EVO onto the 980 Pro, and basically making it then my operating system. So you're gonna see performance delta. Hopefully, you're gonna see a video game performance on both SSD drives, on playback. Also, I'm going to go into Windows Live Media Maker, and I'm going to take a video clip of me playing guitar that I just recorded before this and render it up until, or edit it, and then save the project so that I can show you a benchmark or video of the performance of each drive when the project saves out from. So with that said, sorry about 15 minutes of talking, but hey, you gotta share information to empower people to have information. Simple as that. Never be afraid to share information, whether it's life experiences, what you've learned about something. Knowledge is power. I've said that for years. That said, let's move on to some of the benchmarks and whatnot now, finally. So since my cell phone's low on juice, and it also would be very hard for me to record it, I'm going to simply do this quick little video explaining what needs to be done in regards to now changing out the drive. So, no, it doesn't look like it's going to show my pointer. Okay. So anyways, getting back to what I was saying. Here we see an image of my motherboard in question, the X570 Aurorus Elite, and you see two M.2 drive slots on this motherboard. One here at the center above the main video card slot that has a silver steel reinforcement on it. That is your main socket that you're going to be installing most of your drives into. Now, in this instance, we're going to want to actually take the cover off, and this will be where your primary operating system hard drive will reside. Now, over to the left of the image, you see a second M.2 drive slot. That is where you're going to put your secondary drive, or in the case of what we're going to do in this video in upgrading, we're going to take the old 970 EVO drive that is of the previous PCI Express 3.0 spec. We're going to move it to the slot on the left, which at default only goes up to PCI Express 3.0 spec. And then we're going to mount the new 980 Pro under the included heat spreader and our main drive spot. This again is the only spot in most modern motherboards, whether it be AMD or Intel based, that your higher performing M.2 drive, such as a 980 Pro and its PCI Express 4.0 configuration, will reside. Doing a transfer of data from the old drive to the new drive will be next to impossible if you do not have a motherboard that has two slots like this. If you have a motherboard that has one slot, like only one slot above the processor or sorry, the video card slot that you see right next to it on the left side, you will have one hell of a time to do that transfer unless somehow you've backed the data up to like USB or something. The only other way it's beneficial to you is in a one slot configuration. If you have one M.2 slot, like I'm talking about, is if you are building the computer new, fresh from buying the parts, then in that instance, you get a Windows 10 image, put it onto a USB drive to make it bootable, not boatable, bootable. And then you're going to install your Windows operating system off of your USB jump drive onto then your M.2 drive that's in the main slot. So again, to do this, we're going to have to remove the existing 970 EVO from under the Aurorus Elite heatsink covered M.2 slot down to the second slot that has no heat shield on it, and then install our new drive back into the first slot on the right. All right, pull the microphone back over here closer so I actually sound louder for folks. So now we're back, and let me just say it was a big pain in the behind because I actually had to pull the video card out, and then the standoff for the second M.2 slot was pretty much at the far end, and the actual drive size, as you've seen, was one step in more, so I had to remount it, put the video card back in, which I have it back in one thing. So with that said, as you can see here, we have the Samsung 980 Pro 1 terabyte with volume not found. So let us change that. Okay, this is going to be a little bit longer. So this PC, manage. So, okay, yeah, we got this. properly here. So our new drive is not known, not viewable, so we have to make it initialize disk. You must initialize the disk before Logic Disk Manager can access it. So we're going to put a master boot record on it. And we now have our 3 drives. Let me just expand it here. So there's our drives. This is basically the SSHD Samsung or Seagate fire-coated drive as a backup. Here is actually the NVMe drive, or sorry, the EVO 970, and here is basically the new 1 terabyte EVO. So let's go back to this. So now we should be able to okay, awesome. With this, we have no need to do a firmware update because it does have the current firmware. We'll make a new simple volume on it. And we will call it E for now. And we are now done. Now we should be able to see. Okay, it should be stop it. Okay, well, now that we have this enabled, we can actually benchmark all 3 drives. This is getting longer than what I wanted, but let's benchmark them all.
Why not? This will give people a good idea on the performance differences between the 3 standards of drives, actually. So, I mean, nothing off that. The 970 EVO, half terabyte, generation 3, the Samsung 980 Pro 1 terabyte, generation 4 drive, and the Seagate Fire CUDA, which is a solid-state hard drive, which we will call basically, I guess maybe at this point in time, a 12th gen drive, but first generation hybrid SSD/HD drive. In this, we won't have the stuff running in the background because basically right now at this point in time, we're getting the drive ready to migrate the data from the 970 EVO over to the Samsung 980 Pro drive. Once we do the benchmarks. I figured since we got the benchmark option and all three discs connected seem to be in working order, we can see how they perform. Again, the only thing that's going to skew this performance is the fact that the 980 Pro will not be loaded with data yet. That is what we'll do once we do the benchmark performance thing on this. And just even looking at it now empty, you can see the substantial speed difference already. Man, this is taking a long time. Quick shout out to JT Sense, who just recently started to learn to play guitar. He's been doing so for around a month now, and he's actually gotten really good. Check out his Instagram, that's where he's putting his guitar playing up on.
All right, we now have our benchmarks done. So first off, let's start at the bottom with the slowest of the three drives, the Seagate Firecuda, which, as you can see by the stats above it, are like really ridiculous in performance numbers. Basically 68 megs of reads, 133 megs of writes, and really low on the read and write IOPS. And that's with it being half full of data. Now again, as we scroll up to the top here, and here we see the Samsung SSD 980 Pro 1 terabytes performance benefits. 6,466 megabytes a second. That's almost that's about 2/3 of a terabyte write or read. And then the write is just under a half terabyte. When comparing to the previous drive, the 970 EVO with the Gen 3, that's an increase in read performance by almost half. So it's actually 50% more faster in reads, and the writes is also around 50% improvement as well. So the big time benefits there. So let's stop for now, and I will quickly look into doing the changing data over of it. Alright, back again, folks. So, as we see here, I did not actually download the data migration software. Duh! So, it was a simple piece of software. Quickly downloaded it. Interesting what we see here, though. It claims that the 970 is an SCSI disk device. Now, people that actually are a little knowledgeable of computer history, SCSI device was simply known as SCSI. And SCSI was pretty much the best drive performance you could get at the time. Came with like these super extra wide cables. The drives were insanely priced. Like the same hard drive that I'm going to be cloning from here would have been like $3,000. And that's not including the fact that you would have to spend $2,000 for the SCSI controller card, upwards of probably up to like $200 for the SCSI cable to connect the card to the drive. Like, that's crazy. And back in the day, it was the closest you would get to an SSD drive. But still, for the amount of money it would cost you to build a system around it, you weren't doing it for desktops. If you probably did like video editing or you actually ran a server, it was mostly meant for the server market. So with that said, let's get on to the actual data migration and cloning all the software that's on the current 970 EVO onto the 980 Pro to make it the main hard drive on the system. So we will select 980 Pro and go. Oh, that's a nice little warning. Your computer will be shut down after data migration in 20 seconds. When cloning starts, all data on the target drive will be deleted and cannot be recovered. Also, files on the source drive that are open cannot be cloned. Please close all running files before cloning. Might be a bit of an issue. So let's stop it here and come back after it's done and see what happens. Alright, hello folks, and I am back. On the new Samsung 980 Pro 1TB drive. Can I just say the Samsung software to change things over was just like the cloning software was just crazy. Mind you though, 143 gigs of data isn't very much data to move between drives, but the cloning software cloned the data off of the 970 EVO and dumped it onto the 980 Pro 1TB in 3 minutes. That's right. 3 minutes. Back in the day, that would have took ages. Like, I mean, you would have been talking 2-3 hours, if not 8 hours, to do such a thing on some computers, especially older systems. But 3 minutes, or just over 3 minutes, boom, done. It took me more time to actually uninstall and reinstall the drives into the motherboard and take my video card out and put it back in to be able to do so than it did to clone the software. And I'm back in the OS. The only difference is I'm actually on the newer, more faster drive. So let's stop this and move on to the aforementioned benchmarks that I was doing previously. And those will be coming up right now. So what I thought I'd do for these parts is I'm going to actually leave my workload open. Basically how I have my desktop. As you can see here in my second monitor, I have about 3 to 4 YouTube tabs open. One my Gmail, one my actual YouTube dashboard, one my subscription list page, which, in case anyone is curious, if you can't see feeds from people you've subscribed to, go to this page, subscriptions, at the side here. You will see all your feeds of anyone you've subscribed to. So if that said, let's go back to benchmarking this. So again, my system has the Crucial Ballistics Max Gaming Memory in running at 4000. It is not fully in sync with the CPU because of the limitation of the technology in the CPU, which, if I can step up to a 5000 series processor, will change. So I still got 4000 megahertz RAM though. And in the system still we have the 970 EVO. So let's run the Crystal Mark benchmark and see what we get for performance. Again, this is Windows 10 Pro 64-bit, 3 instances of Mozilla Foxfire, multiple tabs open, and 1 instance of the 3, and Google Chrome as well running on my display 1 with 2 tabs open for basically my mail clients. So let's see how we do here. And go.
This will take a fair amount of time to do as well, too. So what we have going on here is this test will perform various reads on the hard drive specifically. And first it's going to start with a smaller size of data, and eventually it'll go up to larger sizes to see what the performance of the drive is. So far we've done the reading portion of the test, and now we have the write portion of the test. And now we have basically what you see are mostly the specs for read and write performance of a Generation 3 NVMe M.2 drive. That is currently, for the most part, the basic standard for a computer hard drive currently in the last year or two. I also should say, as well as laptops. M.2 drives are actually showing up in laptops in probably the last 2 years now. And that's the other great thing about this platform in this format is laptops are very size restrictive. So they are awesome drives to have in a laptop instead of the clunky big 3.5 or 2.5 inch drives. I think there was also mobile drives made in 1.8 inch format, but it's like that's a large chunk of property. Not to mention M.2 standard drives don't use as much space as say like a regular SSD drive. So it's a little bit better in power consumption, depending on your manufacturer, of course. So we are coming to the end and almost done. We're now on to what they call 4K data movement. This bottom section here, meaning it's 4,000 kilobytes.
As we see here, random. Here's the different performance levels. I'm not going to go into details explaining it more specifically, but I encourage everyone to do a Google search and learn and try to understand things. Because let me tell you, in this day and age of being a consumer, you really need to understand what you're getting for a product. Even if you do not understand something that much, get the knowledge for it. I mean, prime example is again guitars. Somebody could look at a Gibson, oh, that's the best guitar in the market. It'll be the best guitar for me. Not like it. But then turn around and say and go get a Squier Affinity Telecaster and turn around and discover, hey, this guitar is amazing. Why the hell didn't I buy this guitar in the first place? Well, because you were led to believe that you need to buy a high-end guitar that was super expensive to do everything that you wanted it to. And you didn't need to. Happens all the time. And it's the same thing with computer components. Like, some people will probably be like will say in the comment section, like, oh, you're just doing this to brag or show off. No, I'm not doing it to flex as what the known term is as e-penis. I really don't care about that. What I care about is people not throwing their money away at things they don't need. Or won't help them in the long run. Just like my last computer configuration video. That's basically why I did it. So anyways, there we have our read and write performance for the Samsung 970 EVO M.2 drive. And we will end the video there. And the next one should hopefully be with the 980 Pro in place. Welcome back, and so again, here we go. We are going to run the Crystal Mark 8.0.4 64-bit edition hard drive bench. Now with everything as you see, exactly like how it was with the 970 EVO, except now we're actually on the 980 Pro drive. And here we go.
31 seconds into recording, we are already on to the right tests, and we are just getting under the reported speed that we should be getting on this motherboard, and the right is a slight bit short, under a half terabyte, but at the end of the day, we're still seeing higher performance numbers here. And again, same exact situation going on. It's just basically the operating system and everything else cloned and moved over onto the newer drive, and we will be able to see the performance difference between the two drives now.
Now that we got this, everything seems to be going good. Eventually, once I've completed all the tests, edited the video and uploaded it to the channel, I will probably then be looking to wipe the 970 EVO drive to get it ready for basically resale. If you're in Canada and you're possibly interested in it, let me know. I might be able to cut you a decent deal on it. But otherwise, I'm going to be doing as my usual rule of thumb is, which is when it comes to the used market, it's with computer hardware, it's always a hard thing, because basically at the end of the day, you're only going to get pretty much just like the guitar market. You're going to get probably anywhere between 50 to 80% of retail price on an item. Stuff like computer stuff, it's a little bit more complicated, and with how fast technology has gone, like for example, like the speed of this drive as you see here, newer technology devalues previous generation hardware out there to a certain degree. When you do have people out there with older systems that are looking for upgrades, that's when you can't get a lot of your money back. But otherwise, like how it is with all markets, it is absolutely ridiculous the amount of funds it takes or what you will lose. People are so prone to lowball. It's not funny. So, yeah, there's the disc performance benchmark, and you can still see a lot of the stuff in the background here. And so we will stop this, and we will do the Pubg one next. Alright, welcome back. So what we have here is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds running at 1080p, and this is the replay section of the game and some of the save games. So what I did before I started recording all the stuff I did for this video is I actually went in and played one match, and I was lucky enough it wasn't super long. It's going to be 9 minutes. I'll speed it up probably to 2 times to make it a little bit quicker. But I just want to get just kind of show if there is a performance difference between the 970 EVO and the 980 Pro when it comes to having your gaming client, such as Steam, Origin, Uplay, and so forth, when you're gaming, and having it on a faster drive like your main drive will be. So in the case of 970 EVO with my hardware, or sorry, with all my software on it, and that's basically what this is going to be. We're going to go in here and we're going to play the 9-minute match, and what we're going to want to observe up here is the actual frames per second that are being shown in the Steam client for the game. I know that's small, but it will give us an idea on like how much performance we are getting out of the drive. So here we go.
Now, just another little bit of info here. You will not, if you do actually ever play this game, you will never see the names or little statistical type of stuff, because it only shows up in the replays. So this is also all being rendered out on the processor, RAM, all the hardware in the computer system. So again, just goes to further show and illustrate the point of detail and performance you're getting.
So again, we're back into the Pubg replay. Again, this is again with the clients, with the gaming client, Steam client on the M.2 drive, on the Samsung 980 Pro drive instead of the 970 EVO. So let's see if we get a performance difference here.
Just a further note in this, my video card's fan profile has not been enabled back, so that might slightly affect performance, but I don't think it will really well much. Also, I'm going to have to actually look again to see if there's been any performance setting changes in this, because to me it seems a little crisper. Sometimes when you do hardware upgrades, the games will actually automatically detect better hardware, and sometimes will actually configure itself for better visualizations. And the frames per second here, I don't know if they're extremely higher or whatnot, but I am kind of tending to notice, I think there's a little bit of higher detail, which, again, if the settings were changed, it would definitely affect how this is being replayed back.
So one thing I noticed there was that there was no data drop whatsoever, or frames per second drop. I'm not 100% sure that that is correct, so I'm going to stop the video here, and if there is a discrepancy here, you will see a third replay of this with the settings put more appropriately. Okay, so I did check into the settings here, and well, there's a big reason why it was sitting at 75 and didn't move. The profile that was defaulted and autoed in the AMD Radeon software did not allow for higher fan speeds, so it was sitting there chugging along at, like, when I came in and tabbed in to look at it, it was 75 degrees Celsius. Never a good thing to have a component like a processor slash CPU or a video card slash GPU's main thing that uses it overheat, because it can cause tremendous damage to your system if it ever burns, or more so shorts out and fails at the time. So this would explain why I was never seeing an increase over the 75 frames per second that we've seen there in the previous performance video. Once I get the card down in temperature enough, I will rerun the Pubg bench or replay and see if we can see the increases, because I looked through the settings. All the settings are still the same as what they were previously. The only difference was the card wasn't being cooled properly, so the card was only rendering out and doing what it could do with the appropriate heat level it had going on. And usually in the case of processors slash CPUs and video cards slash GPUs, sometimes they will allow for things to run at a higher temperature but at a lower performance level, and I believe that's what we had going on here. So we'll end this section again, and again, as I mentioned, once the temperature of the card comes down some, we will run it again. Alright, welcome back, folks, to attempt number 3, or attempt number 2 to show what's going on here. So, checked over my settings. Nothing has changed. What I drew the conclusion to was actually when checking the drivers, I actually had the old drivers loaded for some reason. When I did do the game render before, it actually had the latest Radeon driver. So hopefully this driver update clears things. Blah 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 blah. Okay. So attempt 2 with drivers installed properly, or driver updated. driver updated, and also the old EVO drive is now out of the computer, formatted and out of the computer. So now let's see how things roll. Now we have proper frames per second. Maybe also the PC needed to be restarted. But that's more like it. Definitely. So again, I think it was partially not the full driver installed and partially the fan profile on the card not being proper. So because we are seeing some frames per second increases here compared to the previous run. Like considering this was showing 75 before constant. Now it's more closer to 100 frames per second. Again, same settings as before. Multiple web browsers open, multiple tabs open, and of course the OBS running recording. Get in there. And now I can put my ringer back up on the phone. Do do do. Look, a candy bar. Hey, pass me the trail mix. Trail mix? What is that? Oh man, it's the greatest stuff in the world. Gotta have more trail mix in your life. No, thank you. So again, we are seeing the substantial differences between the previous driver and I believe the previous driver on the previous old hard drive. At this point in time, I'm actually surprised the guy didn't finish it then. And there we go. Yes, there is indeed the driver improvement. Bomb! Bomb! Ah! So, there you have it. Is there a benefit going from a 0.5 terabyte 970 EVO drive to a 1 terabyte 980 Pro drive? I've presented the visual information to you. So far, my experience, again, for the most part, yes. Where I'm probably going to see it the most with the RAM in the newer, faster hard drive is going to be the video rendering. So you are going to probably find that I'm going to be able to render larger files quicker. So for example, the guitar playing demo that I will be posting probably before this video has gone up, it was 445 megs, and again just under 13 minutes of HD footage. And as you've seen, it literally was rendering out like pretty much 1% a second. So again, when you're doing video editing, photo editing, gaming, you can see to a certain degree, at least in this one title. I'll have to try it out on some other titles now that I've got the system set up and everything's hokey dokey or wokely dokely. I'll know for sure, but I would say so far it is snappier. Again, the big thing with the 980 Pro, the AMD X570 chipset, and the Ryzen processors, the 3000 series and the 5000 series, is getting the bandwidth. And basically what it does for us, the consumers, is we can't afford workstations, or the majority of us can't afford workstations or things that are high performance computing, such as AMD's Threadripper platform is not cheap. Mind you though, you can get up to 64 cores on it. But again, you're paying $3,000 for the chip. But that in any type of video rendering, 3D rendering, animation, anything like that, you have the power of running an M.2 drive with the PCI Express 4.0 spec. So you're getting the data performance, so you're getting an overall data crunch like crazy. To, you know, different, like, to put it in a baseball terminology, it's like the difference between a pitcher throwing an 80 mile per hour fastball and one who throws like 106 mile per hour fastball. You're going to have an easier time to hit the 80 mile per hour fastball than the 106 mile per hour fastball, or vice versa, you're going to strike out more batters with the faster fastball than the slow one. So, faster, more data to push through, great. It is a benefit to us, the consumer, and we don't have to buy high-end server-type configurations to get that performance on a lower tier level. With that said, I hope you enjoy this video that I've put together showing my hard drive upgrade path. Again, I hope it encourages you to learn more about computers. I also hope it encourages you to also work on your computers more, or learn to work on your computers more instead of paying a technician, because quite honestly, a lot of stuff that is done to a computer system is very basic, and anyone that basically can put Legos together, hell, even play Minecraft, can probably put a computer together and or upgrade stuff on the computer. With that said, thank you for watching this all the way through. If you have, like, share, subscribe, and again, take care, and I'll see you later. Bye for now.